Hi everybody.
Hello.
Today we're going to talk about
He's angry at you.
Hi.
Hello.
Today we're going to talk. All right. Hi everybody.
Hello. That's Wally.
Take 17. Hi everybody.
Hello.
Today we're going to talk about the Norwegian Jewel. We're going to do a little bit of a ship review. We're also going to talk about when we took the cruise back in 2017. We went to Alaska. It was a round trip out of Seattle.
We took this trip mainly because at the time we still had traditional jobs. Curtis was working from home, I was working, and we just needed a vacation. So we decided we were going to take one. And then I think a month after we booked this whole vacation,
it was maybe a little bit. So we booked this in like the August prior to when we went. I would say that by Christmas time is when we were telling our families our crazy idea
of moving into an RV and traveling the country. So at that point we knew, well, when we booked the vacation we didn't know we were going to do that, and then it turned out like it was 2-3 months before we actually moved into the RV. It was kind of like, well, we already bought this vacation, so we might as well do it.
Well, and aren't you glad we did it?
Yes, it was an amazing experience, and I highly recommend it to everybody, so much so that we're going back with friends.
And technically, we were supposed to do the second Alaska cruise was supposed to be kind of like the capstone of our trip, but now it's been postponed twice. And so it was originally supposed to be in May of 2020, then it got pushed to 2021, and then we just recently pushed it to 2022.
Because we all know how great 2020 went, and
2021 seems to be going the same way at this point.
yeah.
It hasn't recovered yet. So our cruise, we flew round trip from Chicago to Seattle. That was a pretty easy flight. I think we did Southwest. I think they actually canceled their flight, so we got rebooked, but we purposely flew in the day before, so we didn't really have any major interruptions. I think we ended up getting in about 2 hours later than we had previously expected.
Yeah, whenever you fly, you should give yourself time.
So, not a big deal. We got in, because of the time change, it was pretty late, so we didn't do a whole lot. We made it to the hotel. Lots of complaints from this one about moving across town with bags.
We didn't really, I think at that point we had never really done an Uber or a ride share or anything like that. So Curtis thought it'd be a great idea to walk across all of Seattle with our luggage.
It was like,
we didn't need no stinking Uber.
it was only like 3/4 of a mile or something. And we both only had one big suitcase. It wasn't that big a deal. I'm glad we did it. Now we have something fun to talk about. So we spent the night.
We stayed by the Space Needle.
Yeah, we stayed by the Space Needle, so we spent
So
the
you
night.
can look on Google how long we had to walk with all of the luggage. Oh, we also had to walk to the pier because someone still didn't want to do it.
And that was all downhill. No big deal.
If only we could have ridden our luggage down the hill and not.
Well, maybe next time.
So a couple of the things that we did when we got into Seattle, we made sure to make time to check out Pike's Place, because we have to. It's a requirement.
I think that's where we ate dinner.
Yep. And then we also went to the Space Needle.
We did that Saturday morning right before so the Jewel was in town. You'll see that in these pictures. So that was kind of cool to get to see the ship we were gonna go on.
Yeah, I think at the Space Needle, were you brave enough to go to the outer deck? I don't know.
I went outside. I don't know that I went right to the railing or anything.
I think you were hugging the inside.
There's probably some pictures of me hanging to the wall, just like that. But whatever, I survived.
Barely.
And then we made our way to the ship. I don't remember a whole lot about embarkation because it was really our first time. I guess we got in now I remember. We did get in a little bit early, so we, because we were first timers, they didn't give us a card or anything, so we just had to sit, and we were the last ones of all the people sitting there to get to go on. Once we did, we made our way on. I remember, I think we went and ate by the pool.
You instantly start eating and drinking. That's perfectly okay.
Yep. when we learned, like, when you're import, you pay sales tax.
So don't drink import.
alcohol.
Fun fact.
Or you can, it's $1 sales tax instead of nothing.
Yeah.
But
Prepaid.
whatever. Otherwise, you have to wait until late in the evening until you're in international waters, which is pretty far out.
But essentially, like on the boat when you get on, it's kind of like a party because nobody's really allowed into their rooms until all the luggage has been sorted and put into the rooms. So yeah, everybody's just kind of figuring out where everything is, eating,
Drinking.
starting the
Exploring.
process of relaxing and leaving stress behind. I would say it's a good description of those first few hours.
And then I remember when we departed, I think we had a Princess ship and a Holland America ship left from the other cruise pier in Seattle, and so the three of us basically followed each other for a good portion of the trip.
Until you get out the straits. I mean,
But
even then, maybe a little bit.
and then one thing I do remember is that was the first time we ever saw Port Townsend. And here in a little while, I think we'll talk about that again. But
I don't
thought
know
that
how
was a
he
pretty cool
remembers.
town. I remember seeing something, and I thought we had binoculars, and we were like, "Hey, there's like a nice little campground over there."
I don't remember this at all.
Oh, okay. Either way.
Maybe I'd started on daiquiris. I don't know.
Oh, okay. All right, and then so our first day was a sea day. I think we did all kinds of games and stuff. They had plenty of activities going on. I don't know. That was probably the day we used the pool, or at least I used the pool, just so I could say I did it. It was very cold, as I recall, and then the water was like sloshing up and down so much. That was pretty neat. Our first port that we went to was Ketchikan. We didn't do a whole lot. We ended up not spending any money at all at that port. I think maybe, I know what we did. We did spend a little bit of money. We bought some necessities.
Yes. If you're going to do an Alaskan cruise, make sure you have a good rain jacket.
I thought I did.
You didn't.
I definitely didn't. I was soaked to the bone. I remember my shirt was just, I could like wring it out from just the partial day that we were walking around. So we went to, I think, Tongass Trading Company. It's more of like a local type store. They do have I think they have like a lower level with a bunch of souvenirs
yeah.
and that kind of stuff, but the upper level is basically for the locals, so they have gear out.
And they took pity on us, and they found one of their newspapers for us to give us a coupon, because Curtis looked pretty sad.
So I ended up with a pretty nice coat from there. Blue, just like everything else.
And it is also, I think, our first realization that, especially in these smaller towns, when you go down a particular street, you're going to see a lot of the same vendors at every single port, and those aren't local vendors. Those are owned by the cruise companies.
Princess owns quite a bit of all of that.
So, I mean, if you're going to go to Alaska and try to get local activities or whatever, make sure you search out the actual local shops and one of those. It was pretty obvious when you get upstairs.
And then the really good way to know that is when you go, so the next port that we went to was Juneau. And when you get into Juneau, pretty much the entire area immediately around the piers, it's very obvious that it's all owned by the cruise lines. You have to get just beyond the piers, and then it turns into local shops. So it's always a good idea to do that.
Yeah, it takes a little bit more time because the cruise, they know their customers. They're going to put their stores right where it's the most convenient. So you kind of have to venture off the beaten path or a little bit further out to find those local shops and local restaurants. But I think it's worth it. Not only are you actually supporting the local community, but it usually turns out to be better fares.
So while we were in Juneau, again, most of the ports we didn't have a lot planned, but in Juneau, I think we bought a bus ticket essentially online. I don't know, like $35 round trip or something, which is probably at the time was maybe $45 if you did it through the cruise line. And basically all that was an open-ended ticket to get to Mendenhall Glacier. So we went out to Mendenhall Glacier, we did a hike, we went and saw Nugget Falls. Mendenhall Glacier has been receding and receding over the years, and it's cool to see what's left, but there's not a whole lot left anymore.
No. And there's definitely more excursions that you can do, but at the time, especially when we were on the cruise, we knew about our future plans to move into an RV.
We're really trying to be budget conscious.
Yeah. So we really did pretty much, I think, you could go a step lower than we did because we did pay for the bus ticket instead of just walking around Juneau and whatnot. But I think if you really want the experience, we pretty much did the most budget-friendly version we could do.
Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of this too, you're able to get off the ship and you can find a bus and you can book it and do it right there. You don't have to pre-book a lot of this type of stuff. We just did, we found a Groupon or something, and it was a decent deal for that. So if we do go back, there are two things that I still kind of would like to do someday. One is the Alaskan Brewing Company is there. They do tours. I drink a lot of Alaskan Amber, but that's beside the point. And we've seen breweries before, but it's neat that they brew it there. And then the other one is there's the Mount Roberts Tram. Mm-hmm. The day that we were there, though, it was kind of overcast and dreary.
It was definitely in the clouds when we got
So we figured that if you go up there, all you're going to do is be in the clouds and you're not going to see anything anyway. So maybe next time we'll go and it'll be a little different.
I think that one's definitely weather dependent. I don't know if I would book that one ahead of time.
No. After we left Juneau, we were in Juneau for the morning. I think we left maybe at like 11 or noon. And
I'm surprised we remember it at all because what we got to do next, in my mind, like overshadows everything.
So a lot of cruises, they'll go and do Glacier Bay National Park. I think on the next one we're planning to do that. But ours went to a different inlet basically, and cruised up right to a glacier, and we went and saw Tracy Arm.
And it was absolutely, in my opinion, amazing. I think there's two glaciers there, and we were supposed to go to the other one, but if I remember correctly, they decided not to because there were too many icebergs in that direction. I mean, they do pretty good in icebergs, but they really don't like stuff bouncing off their hulls. So they went the other way, and it was amazing. I think we were the only boat the entire way.
No, there was a little
sightseeing one?
Yeah, sightseeing one, because they were right up near right up next to the glacier, and one of the chunks of ice fell off, which they call calving, and it's just like the whole thing just like.
But I also, and I might be wrong, but if memory serves, it was a pretty long cruise, and they have to go slow because it was a pretty narrow passage. I mean, we had cliff walls on either side pretty much.
And I mean a couple widths of the ship on each side of us maybe.
But it was absolutely gorgeous. And it's the reason the towns are neat and the experience is neat, but seeing where these glaciers have been and being able to cruise up areas that they have receded in, it's essentially brand new Earth that hasn't been exposed to sunlight or anything. Period.
So as you move up, you'll see like it'll be forested and look like you would think of most of Alaska, and then slowly but surely the trees will get smaller and smaller, and there'll be less dirt basically, and then before you know it, you're just seeing like scalded rock, and it's just rock.
But it's perfectly smooth, and it's just, you have to go and you have to experience it. It's incredible to see like the evolution of the Earth in that way. And the glacier at the end is pretty cool too. Mm-hmm. It's definitely something, we don't have those in Michigan, so to be able to see where it's churned up dirt and see that line all the way up the mountain as the glacier goes up the mountain is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And we were lucky enough to see it calve like we had previously mentioned. And I think, we didn't see it start, we heard it. Right?
I think maybe we heard it and then we saw it splash or something. I'm pretty sure you have some pictures.
I do.
Right here. All right, and then after that we cruised up to Skagway. Skagway is actually not too far from Juneau, so we left the glacier late in the evening and then cruised up to Skagway overnight.
Got some great sunset pictures, golden ones.
So in Skagway, we booked a bus tour
I think that's the one we splurged on, right?
Yeah, that was the most expensive thing we bought. I think it was maybe like $130 a person or something. Basically, the bus takes you up through from Skagway, Alaska, up through British Columbia, and then into the Yukon. So we made it up to Carcross, which is in the Yukon Territory. We'll put a couple extra pins in our map for that.
You go through White Pass, which is, it's approximately where all the old timers had to go through, and I mean, I think that's right up there with the glaciers for me, because that whole tundra is at thousands of feet in the air, and it's just a completely different world than what you're used to. Even if you, because we went to school in Houghton, and we've been in cold, wintry places, and just to see one that's almost cold and wintry 100% of the time and how nature deals with that was really cool.
Mm-hmm. And then the lakes, as I recall, they had some amazing colors in them.
They were all glacial lakes, so they were all super teal.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all, because they're glacier form, they're all just really skinny, long lakes that just go for miles. And then to think of having to like cross that with like a canvas sack.
In a skiff?
Yeah, and yeah, because the lakes were so long, they tried to
use them as their primary means of transportation.
Yeah.
And in some cases, that definitely helped, but it's amazing to think about.
Thank God for cars.
The one thing we would recommend for Skagway, and what we're definitely going to do next time, is to just do the White Pass Railroad. Because basically, we saw the same thing twice on the bus tour. We saw the same thing up as we did on the way back.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you take the train, you either take a bus one way, and then the opposite way, you take the train. So you get to see two different aspects of the pass and different scenery both times.
Right. That is a little bit more expensive. We were still kind of budget friendly. But yeah, that was a whole different amazing experience too, to be able to do that.
All right, and then we had one more sea day after Skagway, and we made our way to Victoria.
Which is it's really just a quick required stop. It's the cruise, especially actually the cruise ports there are, there's no shops.
Oh yeah,
they're
there's
very
like,
industrial.
There's some bicycle rental places, but most of them are like,
Even
here's
the
a shipping container
Yeah.
that we like plopped on this dock, and now we rent bikes out of it.
And that's because, I mean, as the city has grown, they don't have the big ships go into Victoria. You're kind of going in outside, and you have to find a way to get into Victoria if you want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, there's not those like fake shops we were talking about. They're not fake, but cruise-owned shops or something like that. And like I mentioned, it's just really a required stop for cruise lines, because if a ship isn't flagged in the U.S., it has to make a stop outside the U.S. And that's its stop. That's Victoria.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's an okay, neat town.
It's a really cool old town.
Mm-hmm. But we walked it, and I think we enjoyed the walk.
Yeah. Again, we were being very considerate of our budget, so we didn't really do bike rentals or anything. So it was really how far we could get on our feet. I think by the time we actually got to town, it was very much like, all right, let's go back. I hurt.
I think the one cool thing that was going on, there was a sailboat race.
Yeah.
And it was in town. I don't know if they had just finished or not, but there was all kinds of sailboats in the harbor. So that was kind of cool for me.
You took interest in that because of your slightly sailing background.
Okay. All right, and then overnight you make your way back to Seattle. At some point, I don't know, really early in the morning, they get the ship docks, and then we got off, and we ended up flying out probably about like a 2 p.m. flight or something, and then made our way back to Chicago.
Yeah. Then we went right into figuring out how to sell a house and buy other things.
Quite the fun summer that year.
Yeah. But it definitely cemented Seattle as a stop on our next trip. So.
Mm-hmm. And we're glad we did it. And obviously we're doing it again, so we must have liked something about it.
Or loved like every part of it.
What about as far as the ship goes? What did you like about it? Do you remember a lot about it?
So I had slightly previous experience cruising. My family did it once. But I think on that once I had identified that I personally like smaller ships. To me, they're quieter. I don't need thousands of people running around me all the time. That does not help with my relaxing part.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really excited, and the Jewel it's a cute small ship that still has all the pretty much all the amenities of a big ship. I mean, you're not going to have your go-karts, but they had a couple water slides if you're into that. They had the full theater. They had all the restaurants.
In fact, I think they had the Jewel, I think, had the largest theater in all of Norwegian's fleet at the time.
I think so. I think the one downside to the theater is that it's directly above the bow thrusters. So.
Oh yeah, we were leaving there was a comedian on stage, I think I remember.
Yeah.
And you could hear the bow thrusters really roaring because we were pulling away from the pier.
Well, and when you're in the theater, it's basically a giant subwoofer at that point. So it's just like, brrr. Like, pause.
And you kind of feel that little bit of a bump.
Yeah.
But
I mean, yeah, and cruise lines are always really good about that. They're going to make sure all their ships can provide the services that are required of them. And yeah, it's just a smaller, intimate, quieter feeling.
One other thing I would recommend that we kind of messed up on, and again, we probably didn't realize it as much as we thought, was dining. We spent, I would say we ate at least 50%, if not more, of our meals were from the buffet.
I think we only had 1 or 2 restaurants, wasn't it?
Yeah, we didn't have a dining package, so we could have eaten at the main dining room, so we just never did until the very last night we ate at the main dining room, and we're like, why didn't we do this more?
And I think we were a little concerned at the time because, at least to me, it's kind of confusing, especially on the dining stuff, of which ones are included and which ones aren't. Because, I mean, if you have the basic dining package, like some restaurants are included, but some definitely aren't included. And like, there can be some expensive restaurants on a cruise ship. So, and they're not going to just tell you that. It's going to be added to your dues. So I think we just wanted to limit any possibility of accidentally adding to our amount due at that point.
But everything we ate, I don't think we had any bad meals. We always had, I would say, at least good, if not great or fantastic.
I mean, you can pretty much eat whenever you want, whatever you want, which is also somewhat problematic. But it's a cruise. You're relaxing. You pay for it later.
There's an exercise area.
There's a gym.
Mm-hmm. Well, guys, I think that's all we have to talk about today for the Jewel. If you have any questions on it, we would love to answer them. Put some comments below. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, all that stuff. And until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
How come you never wave?
Bye.
Bye.